When it comes to training sessions, town halls, lead generation, really any large audience communication, I turn to webinars. And no surprise, Webex webinars are my tool of choice. And as the audience gets larger, I love the possibilities now enabled with breakout sessions. In fact, let's use my dream training webinar as a fictitious example, Rob's Secrets of Corporate Storytelling. My webinar is going to be packed with thousands of attendees soaking in the power of story and how it can free us from the bonds of bland corporate communication. And then following my presentation, everyone is going to be excited to get more practical within smaller interactive sessions led by highly trained acolytes who've completed my intense certification process. So with that set up, I want to show you the in-meeting experience for hosts, panelists, and attendees. But first, let's look at the scheduling process. Now, you probably recognize this screen. We want to schedule a webinar. I'll add our title, but let's skip down to advanced options, then scheduling options. And once we enable breakout sessions, we can click this new link to set up the details. We can enable as many as 100 sessions, but for now, I've got 3 ready to go. Let's leave the attendees per session as is. And here, I want to share a handy pro tip. If we select import from CSV, we get a place to do that, but don't miss this download link. This is a simple template that we can use to avoid any formatting challenges, as we only need room names and email addresses for the panelists. Now, like any good cooking show, voila, my template is already customized with my breakout session names and panelists. I have 2 panelists defined for the marketer session. 2 is the minimum recommendation, but as you can see, having at least 1 for the others will let us proceed just fine. Now, we just drag and drop the CSV file and we can instantly see that it works. Notice here we can still move, swap, or completely delete individual panelists as well as the sessions themselves, and of course, add new ones as needed. Well, let's hit Create, which returns us to the scheduling screen with our enabled breakouts showing all the new data. So easy, right? Well, let's fast forward to my imagined event so we can see what the in-meeting experience is like. Well, hosts and co-hosts will find this Breakout Sessions button at the bottom of their Webex interface. Notice how these controls look and act the same way they did during the scheduling process. There's no need to complicate it. We can still make any changes we need. It's all very intuitive, but check this out under Settings. We can set a time limit so that all breakouts end at the same time. Makes sense. And we can set what I call a grace period. This is the amount of time attendees will have to wrap things up and get back to the main session when breakouts are over. Once it expires, all stragglers are going to be moved automatically. All right. As we hit Start, the panelists are automatically placed into their pre-assigned sessions, ready to greet attendees as they come in. Let's now look at Sarah's screen here for the attendee experience. Well, Sarah can see that sessions have started, so she makes a wise choice here and finds Jameson and myself waiting for her. As an attendee, she can't unmute herself, so she instinctively reaches for the chat to ask us for permission. And this is what it looks like as I go in to unlock her mute button. Flipping back over to her screen, we can see that she gets this pop-up. I like being able to interact verbally. It's great engagement without giving up any control over the session. But verbal is certainly not the only way to engage. Chat may be the most familiar, but you might also enjoy the nuance afforded by these emoji-based reactions to give everyone a voice, in a manner of speaking, without interruption. And finally, polling offers even more options for structured engagement. Our presenter, Jameson, is using Immersive Share, which is great for anyone looking for fresh ways to interact with their presentation. Attendees can always see how much time is remaining in the session, but let's flip back to my host screen for a moment as I'm going to end all breakout sessions manually. That way we can take one last look at Sarah's attendee screen to see this pop up. It's the 10-second grace period that we said earlier. There are so many ways to make webinars more personal and more valuable. Now, in the interest of transparency, my storytelling webinar is still in the wishful thinking stage. But once I get around to it, I am pumped for this kind of audience engagement now made possible with breakout sessions. So don't miss out on this with your next audience. Crush your webinar goals with breakout sessions, now available in Webex Webinars.